Back with another one. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Is it doing it? Oh, this thing always tripping. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Gonna drop a few videos tonight. And this is a old one, but it's something I've been wanting to do because believe it or not, this one is war order under threat. Believe it or not, part of Ukraine was Russia. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, because of how the Ukrainians were treating the Russian people who lived there, that was one reason. Another reason is to get back their territory. But believe it or not, just like the H word from Germany and Putin, they actually fighting Illuminati. And that's a fact. They fighting the powers that be. And that's why Putin is one of the most hated men, along with Trump, fighting the powers that be. And that's a fact. Um, so, but this article was saying world order under threat, not seen since the Cold War. And this is how you know who they fight. The international world order is under threat in a way we haven't seen since the Cold War. The heads of UK and US foreign intelligence services have warned. The chiefs of M16 and the CIA also said both countries stand together in resisting an assertive Russia and Putin's war of aggression in Ukraine. In a first ever joint article, Sir Richard Moore and William Burns wrote in Financial Times that they saw the war in Ukraine coming and were able to warn the international community in part by declassifying secrets to help Kyiv. And they said, oh my God, and they said there was work being done to disrupt the reckless campaign of sabotage across Europe by Russia, push for de escalation in the Israel Gaza war, and counterterrorism to thwart the resurgence of an Islamic State. There is no question that the international world order, the balanced system that is so flawed because it's only balanced for the rich, not for the middle class and not for poor people. For the balanced system that's led to relative peace and stability, BS, because it ain't been no peace or stability for people who are not rich. Bullshit. And delivered rising living standards. Yeah, the cost of living is so high you got to work 5,000 jobs. Yeah, that part. Opportunities and prosperity, that is true, is under threat in a way we haven't seen since the Cold War. Successfully combating this risk is at the foundation of the special relationship between UK and the US, they added. One of the unprecedented array of threats faced by both countries is the war in Ukraine, which is the third year after Russia's invasion in February 2022. The security service chief made their first public speaking appearance together at the Financial Times Weekend Festival at London's Kentwood House on Saturday. Details of the speakers were kept under wraps until just minutes before they arrived on stage. They appeared relaxed together and stressed the close working partnership between their agencies. Mr. Burns told attendees that Ukraine's recent seizure of Russian territory in the Kursk region was a significant tactical victory, but he saw no evidence that Russia's President Vladimir Putin's grip on power was weakening. And it's not, because now Kim Jong Un from North Korea have sent their troops in, at least 10,000, to help Russia, but the Russian putting them in the front lines, so they dropping dead left and right. You know what? I'm gonna add that in too. They said the North Korean troops is dropping left and right because they being put on the front line. They not used to combat like that. Wow. Details of the speaker were kept under wraps until just minutes before they arrived on stage. Excuse me. They appear relaxed together and stress the close working partnership between their agencies, I'm sure. Mr. Burns told attendees that Ukraine, oh, I already read this, didn't I? My bad. There have been calls from Ukraine for the West to supply more weapons and lift restrictions on their use inside Russia, which Biden did by letting them. This how I know we're going to get hit. Putin was pissed that Biden allowed Ukraine to use our weapons for long range targets into Russia. He was pissed. And we got 50,000 Chinese that walked across that border. You ain't seen them in no shelters. Where they at? You got about 30,000. We got Ukrainians here. We do. You ain't seen them in no shelters. You got 35,000 or so Russians that walked across that border. Where they at? They ain't in no shelters. The only people in the shelters is the Venezuela and the other Hispanic people and the Africans, the poor people. That's it. And that's all. Where they at? What connections do they got here? I'm just saying. Now, Biden did deport about 104 Chinese back to their country's nationals. But where they at? They already said after the cyber attack, Las Vegas and New Orleans, it sells all across. It's they here. It sells all throughout the United States. Even some Iranian, they said, bombs. I'm just waiting for because we definitely getting hit. And I gotta talk about them drones because the man from Vegas, what did he say? He said those are Chinese drones and they have enough power to take out the whole East Coast. Those are Chinese drones that they lying to the people about. Allegedly. Mm, okay. The failure to do so has sometimes been put down to fears over how Moscow might react, but the spy chief suggested should not detour support for Ukraine. I guess now you just sent your decrepit, demented Biden, you just sent them another $2.5 billion. Hell, I need to move to Ukraine. None of us should take lightly the risk of escalation. It ain't none of our business. That's between Russia and Ukraine. That ain't none of our business. Oh, but if you got investments over there, because Ukraine is more corrupt than Mexico, I couldn't even believe. I was like, wow. And what goes on in Ukraine is unbelievable. So, yeah. And if you think people ain't getting that money back that they sending over there in their pockets, yes, they are. Because did you see we supporting that government? Did you see the Ukrainians? They partying at the bars. They eating good. Also, Zelensky done bought a mansion over here. He done bought a yacht. Hmm. You can't make this up. He described a moment in late 2022 when there was, he said, a genuine risk of potential use of tactical nuclear weapons by Russia in response to setbacks on the battlefield. Mr. Byrne passed messages to Russian officials warning of the consequences of their use. If they dropped a nuclear bomb, what are you really going to do? Just drop one back and the whole world gone? Really? I never thought, however, and this is the view of my agency, that we should be unnecessarily intimidated by that, the CIA director said. Putin's ability, he's going to continue to rattle from time to time, ask about an apparent increased willingness of Russian intelligence service to carry out covert operations like sabotage and arson in Europe. Sir Richard Moore said their use of criminals to carry out attacks suggests a degree of desperation. We do the same thing. What Russian intelligence service has gone a bit thorough in some of their behavior. I swear to God, it never fails that when I go live, here go the doggone dog. Excuse me, let me put this dog up because I don't know how to edit my videos. Somebody's gonna come and teach me so I can start editing these parts out. Excuse me. Oh, she hushed. Mr. Burns added that even if plots sometimes appear amorous, they could still be reckless and dangerous. In their joint piece for the Financial Times newspaper, both men said that staying the course is more vital than ever when it comes to supporting Ukraine, adding that Mr. Putin would not succeed. Yes, he is. Yes, he is going to succeed. The conflict has shown how technology can alter the course of war and highlighted the need to adapt, experiment, and innovate, they said. They continue. Beyond Ukraine, we continue to work together to disrupt the reckless campaign of sabotage across Europe being waged by Russian intelligence and its cynical use of technology to spread lies and disinformation designed to drive wedges against us. United States, you do the same thing. Both foreign intelligence services see the rise of China as the main intelligence and geopolitical challenge of the century. They have reorganized their services to reflect that priority, the pair said. They also said they have pushed hard for restraint and de escalation in the Middle East and have been working ceaselessly to secure a ceasefire and hostage deal. They still got hostages. I'm sure they did by now, but Mr. Burns, who has been central to ceasefire efforts, indicated at the Financial Times event that there may be more detailed proposal in the coming days. Really? Well, that ain't happened. This is ultimately a question of political will, he said, adding that he profoundly hopes leaders on both sides would do a deal. Well, if we stop sending them money and make them sit down at the table and come up with a resolution, but the United States is a big bully, and we have warmongers in the White House. All right, and I'm just gonna play this video. This is gonna be a short video. I have it up. Oh shoot, I gotta talk about. Oh yeah, I got to do this too. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Article, the heads of the CIA and MI6 have warned that the world order is under threat in a way we have not seen since the Cold War. Writing in the Financial Times, head of appear at the paper's weekend festival today, Sir Richard Moore and Bill Burns warned that Russia put the heads of both MI6 and CIA together. Yes. And they make a joint statement. So it's like the theatre of the occasion should not. So Richard Moore and Bill Burns warned that Russia was sabotaging Europe, and I'm joined on the programme by Colonel Simon Diggins, OBE defence analyst. Thank you very much indeed, Simon, for joining me. I mean, obviously, it's alarming. Is that how right on in alarm? I think the answer is alarming, and as the paper points out, it's extremely unusual for the heads of both MI6 and CIA to appear together. Yes,
exactly.
Make a joint statement. So the things like the theatre of the occasion should not be underestimated. Clearly, very serious, and they're right. The risks of just the threat we've seen in and both the CIA and MI6 highlighted as well what they call the rectage orchestrated by Russia across Europe. They also highlighted China, the rising Islamist threat. Our friendly state, which doesn't seem to have disappeared. So it was a very thorough, a very alarming report by them, but I think we should take it extremely seriously. Yes, well, it is so alarming. Honestly, it sends quite justifiable, shivers down the spines of anybody who can take time to think about it seriously, because contemplating it is almost unconscionable. The question, though, I suppose, is what we as a country are supposed to do about it, or indeed what the West is supposed to do about it. Well, I think we all hoped at the end of the Cold War. I mean, it unfairly described, but it was the end of history. The global liberal order had triumphed. Soviet communism was dead, and it might take a few countries like China to sort of come into line. The assumption was that the Western-style liberal democratic order was the way ahead, and other countries would make it. That's completely fallen apart, and so we need to recognise we're not just in a bipolar world. That's gone. I don't even think we're in a kind of multipolar world. We're in a world of a myriad of different threats, and people who are our friends for one thing. Let's not forget we have a massive trade deals with China are also strategic challenges. So we need to be very agile and also very strong in our defence and our security. And this is the really hard thing for us, so we're simply not. Well, I mean, we're having this conversation about the threat to the world order on the very day that the Daily Mail's headline, front page, is none of our attack submarines at sea, utterly dire state of Royal Navy laid bare in shocking figures. That's not a juxtaposition you want to be happening, is it? No, not at all. And you could say the same thing across the other armed forces, sadly. Yes. We have an army that's hemorrhaging people faster than it can recruit them. The RAF can't train enough people. It's had to close down various bits of its capability. And what we've had over years is this promise of kind of jam tomorrow, that sometime in the 2030s, 2035, this amazing bit of kit will not come into place. We need strong defence now, and that's the real blunt thing about it. And that's why, while I understand exactly why Labour as a new government, after some years of Tory government, would want to have a strategic defence review. To be honest, we know what the problems are. We know what the solutions are. We've had 4 strategic defence reviews in the last 10 years. Strategic, not just tactical. Quick look at what's going on. Strategic defence reviews. We understand the situation, but the unpalatable truth is, if we want to have the kind of security and defence we need to spend more money. And the start point is the 2.5% of GDP, not in some sort of never land is where we are with Labour at the moment, but within a fixed time frame. And frankly, sooner the better. And let's get to 3%, which is probably where we need to be. Really, as well. However, realistically, you're speaking to me and I'm speaking to you in a paltry sum that makes an enormous difference to our all the different water companies, and the immediate response, well, they won't because it's much too expensive. So if clean water is too expensive,
underestimate at all the difficulty of the politics of the thing. I mean, I'd make two arguments. Firstly, you have to pay, which means we would actually have to. We've seen warehouse tax in East London. We've seen endless cyber attacks by to destabilise society. Mm-hmm. So what they then do is they've been identified to destabilise society. The consequence was not to defend ourselves properly, and the costs of then remediating it as a society are significantly greater than the costs of increasing taxation in our country, any defence and for our security. It's not an easy way out. But I think this kind of sort of promise that somehow we'd get the money through growth when there's no real obvious way to kind of get growth just simply won't wash. And that might take 5, might take 10 years. The challenge is now we've had the prime ministers of all the Baltic states and the Polish prime minister saying basically that Russia is prepared to challenge NATO within the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
Now that takes us from now through to 2030. And that's way outside. That's way inside. Sorry, the timeline that Starmer and this defence review are looking at. So the challenge is now, and the response needs to be now, not in some fictional time in the future when we may or may not have growth in order to pay for defence.
And just one further question. Sure. I'm not expecting a neat and sharp answer to this, but what will war, should we become embroiled in it, look like then? Because what's going on in the Middle East doesn't resemble any kind of war that's recognizable to most of us, and what's gone on in various other countries in the world has been a kind of form of warfare that we don't know and that isn't familiar to us. So when it comes to investing in defence, are there altogether different investments that need to be made, not the traditional ones?
You need both, and I think that's one of the things that came out from the article from the heads of CIA and MI6. They do these other forms of threat, and indeed, people, if they want to put it in a big bucket category, talk about grey warfare, grey zone warfare, and that's all that whole mix of social media, sabotage, destabilization, all of that, and more. But we also need to have traditional forces because you still. War is still a war amongst the peoples. You need to be able to convince people to fight, and you need to be able to fight and to hold ground, or to deal with enemy threats from the air or from the sea. So we need it all. I mean, and you say it's not an easy answer to it. So what's going on in Ukraine are very much in that way, whether it be drone warfare, intelligence, cyber, and everything, but also what we've seen in Israel-Gaza conflict as well. So we, like all these things, like the new is being born, even as the old still exists, and we're starting to see and understand what a future warfare would look like in the next few years. Hybrid warfare, grey warfare, zone warfare, whatever term you choose to use.
Yes.
But we're starting to understand and see what that would look like. But it's expensive.
Colonel, thank you very much indeed. Colonel Simon Diggins, OB.
Listen, I'm sick of y'all talking about raising my taxes to pay for a war that ain't got nothing to do with me. I can't wait for January 20th, for real. For real. Because this is ridiculous. I don't have nothing to do with that, and I'm against it. I'm against all the money that we have sent to the Ukraine on a war that they're going to lose. They have lost so many people. They need to sit down and come to a resolution for real. Because the American people should not be supporting something happening overseas that don't have nothing to do with us. Point blank, period. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Be right back.